Hi there, welcome to this video. It's very early and I'm on the beach. So this morning I've done everything right. I'm on the beach at about 5:30. We're probably about half an hour away from the sunrise, but unfortunately I don't think it's going to be very spectacular. About the only cloud that there is in the sky is this little bit just up here that's above my head now. The rest of the sky is completely clear, so I'm not going to get a very spectacular sunrise, so I'm going to have to rethink what I'm going to do this morning. It's not going to be a big landscape shoot. What I'm going to go and do is look for little details and try and be a little bit more abstract. Now this is not my usual style of photography, and so I'm definitely not expert at it, but I'm going to give it a go, and I know whatever happens I'm really going to enjoy my photography. So just at the moment there isn't a lot of light for picking out details, and so what I've done is I've tried to take a silhouette of the pier here and the lighthouse, and there's a nice bit of water just here that's provided quite a nice composition. So it throws the lighthouse into silhouette, but there is this nice little bit of cloud, the only bit of cloud that's in the sky, just above the lighthouse, so I'm trying to use that while it's still there. Now you might be able to notice that I've got slightly different clothes on because I'm filming this part of the video the day after the part that you've just seen, because yesterday I wasn't really very prepared for how cold it was going to be. I ended up getting so cold that I couldn't even think properly. My fingers were completely numb. I couldn't turn the knob on the back of the tripod to undo the camera. I couldn't be creative, and at the end I waited for the sunrise, but I just couldn't think what to do next. My brain just wouldn't work because of the cold, so I ended up going back to the bed and breakfast and abandoning the video yesterday. But I'm back on the beach again this morning. It's fairly similar conditions, but we've got a little bit more cloud in the sky. So first of all, I'll talk you through what shots I did manage to get yesterday before I abandoned the shoot. First of all, I was down in this area and I tried getting the big stopper out to smooth the water out. Now this is basically a filter that you put on the front of the lens, and it really helps you to completely slow the shutter speed down. So the shot that I took here was a 2-minute exposure. So yesterday the moon was quite low, so I did try including that in some shots. There's this one where the moon was between a couple of buildings that I quite like, and then also I included it as just part of the scene in the background. But have a look at these two pictures. This one was taken without any foreground interest. Now the harbour in Whitby is quite attractive anyway, but I think the picture is really enhanced by bringing the foreground into it. So this lamppost here and part of the pier I think really gives more depth to the image and just improves it no end. As we got closer to sunrise, we did get a few more clouds in the sky, and I used them in some photographs to try and give them a little bit more atmosphere, but unfortunately they weren't particularly spectacular. They were fairly nice photographs, and if I hadn't got loads of other photographs from Whitby I'd be quite pleased with them, but I've got much better skies and much better examples. I did manage to stay until the sun has risen, and so I've got some shots pointing straight at the sun with one of the piers in the foreground as well, which is quite a pleasing image, and that's on the screen now. But it was at this point that I got really cold and decided I was going to abandon the shoot. So today I'm back on the beach. I've got gloves, I've got a hat, I've got a better coat, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend a bit of time on the beach again, looking for the details I was looking for yesterday, wait for the sun to rise to see if anything happens with that, and then after the sun has risen, I'm going to go around the town looking for details to photograph like I planned to do yesterday. I spent a little bit of time trying to photograph the waves to show some movement, so I've used a slow shutter speed, but it is really difficult because it's a little bit hit and miss. You're never quite sure what you're going to get because the wave's different as it comes in. The shutter speed makes a big difference. If the shutter speed's too slow, you get virtually nothing. It just is completely misty, and sometimes you don't get a very interesting pattern. So it is complete pot luck. It's good fun trying to do it, but I don't think I've been particularly successful with any of the images. What I am trying now is, rather than taking photographs of the waves rolling up the beach, I'm taking them a little bit further out where they're breaking. Now, to get a little bit closer, because I can only zoom to 200mm with this lens, I've come into the water itself. Now, it's a good job I've got my wellies on, but that's why I wore them this morning. But I'm actually liking these shots a little bit more. Now, I don't know whether you can tell from behind me, but there is a huge bank of cloud that's come over, and it is drizzling ever so slightly. So I'm really not sure that anything will happen with the sunrise, which is due in about 10 minutes. There is still a little bit of blue sky over where the sun is due to come up, but I'm not sure that that's going to be very spectacular. So we'll just carry on looking for details. I'm actually really liking some of the shapes that I get with a shutter speed of half a second. It's just enough to blur out the water without making it completely like mist. So those are my favourite, I think. The sun has now risen, and I did spend quite a bit of time forgetting about filming and just thinking about taking photographs because it was quite interesting. It wasn't massively spectacular, but the clouds really started doing some interesting patterns and shapes. We got a little bit of colour in the sky. So what I did is I tried to do some slow shutter speeds, and I got the big stopper out as well to just try and get some reflections of the colour in the water, and then I noticed as the sun just started to poke through, it was illuminating one of these lampposts on the pier, and so I tried to use that to make a picture as well with the sun behind the pier, but it was catching the glass of the ball at the top of the lamppost as well. Now that it's got a little bit lighter and that sunrise has stopped distracting me, I'm going to have a little look around for some details that I could photograph as well, because that's what I set out to do today, and it's perfect conditions for that because quite a lot of cloud has come over, so the light is now quite overcast, so it wouldn't make very good landscape shots anyway. So this kind of condition is ideal for taking close-up details because the light is flat and quite soft. On the pier here is a really interesting structure known as a capstan, and it was used when boats used to anchor themselves to the end of the pier, because what would happen is the ropes would be thrown up through these gaps here in the end of the pier, wrapped around the capstan, and then pieces of wood would be put into these holes, and the whole thing would be turned to pull the ropes in and anchor the boats safely to the end of the pier. But it makes for a really interesting subject to photograph because there's so much history here, but it's also started to decay. So looking for those interesting bits of detail make for great photographs. There are lots of little birds all over the pier, but I can't for the life of me remember what they're called. Somewhere I have photographed them before, so I'll check the name, I'll show you some pictures and I'll put the name on the screen now. On this pier here are some lobster pots and this really old anchor, and it makes for some really interesting photographs. What I've done with this anchor is I've tried to frame the lighthouse in this hole here at the top of the anchor. Now what I've done is several shots. I've done one with the anchor in focus and one with the lighthouse in focus, and then what I also might try and do is combine the two and focus stack them so I've got both in focus. What I'll do is I'll leave you with some of the details that I've photographed and some of my favourite images from the last 2 mornings. I hope you've enjoyed that video. It's been a little bit challenging to film, especially yesterday that I wasn't really prepared. So there's a good lesson. Make sure that if there is a potential for it to be cold, have some gloves and a hat, and then you can carry on taking the photographs without having to abandon the shoot like I did yesterday. But either way, I think I've got some really interesting photographs from the last couple of days, and I'm really looking forward to seeing them when I get them in the computer. Well, if you have enjoyed that video, do let me know down below in the comments, and up over to my Vero account, that's @DeOakton Leave me your comments there, and you can also see lots of my photographs. Now, if you like what I do on the channel and want to help support me to make future content like this, you can also visit my Teespring store. There I've got a range of merchandise on offer, so head off over there, and a purchase really does help me out, and it's very much appreciated. And also, don't forget the super thanks button as well, but you don't have to spend any money at all to support the channel. You can do that simply by clicking like, subscribe and the bell notifications, because it really helps me out and it makes sure that you don't miss out on any future content. Watch out for next week's video, that goes live on Sunday. In the meantime, go and check out this video just up here, but all that's left now is to say stay safe, and I'll see you soon.